but it's going to be tough. But I'm going to have to go with Julio Jones on this one. He's a great receiver, and with other weapons like Roddy White and Gonzalez and all that on that team, he gets open a lot, and he's going to catch a lot of passes this year.
Plus, he's got that burner speed,
yes.
So he gets those 20, 30, 40-yard catching bombs for a touchdown. But I'm going to go with Vincent Jackson. He came over as a free agent to Tampa last year, and he built up a great rapport with Josh Freeman. Freeman threw 27 touchdowns. Double digits of them went to Vincent Jackson. And with another year under their belt and an offseason, more of practice, I think he's going to have just a monster year. Now, finally, we're going to the NFC East, and once again, another stacked division. We talked about how the AFC only has 2 really legitimate Super Bowl contenders and how the NFC is stacked. Now we've got another division full of great teams with great individual talents. Who's coming out of this one?
Well, this one I was going to go. I've been going Washington Redskins for the division for a while. They're getting a lot of their guys back, a lot of good weapons, and RG3 he's a phenomenal player. So I have them winning the division outright. What was tough for me was counting out the New York Giants for a wild card. I've been going back and forth a lot with them, and again you can't argue with 2 Super Bowl rings. Eli does what he has to do, and he's very good at what he does. And then Dallas, Romo's tough. The team's good, but I don't have faith in them to keep it together as well. And then let's not even start on the Eagles. I don't I don't think they're going to contend here, but it's mostly between New York and Washington for me.
Yeah, I agree with the Eagles. As much as I like Chip Kelly, and I think he's going to bring some real flair and flash to the NFL, and it's going to be fun to watch. But Vic has never completed a full season, and then that leaves Nick Foles as your backup quarterback, who's a very unproven commodity. You lost arguably your best receiver in Jeremy Maclin for the year. You lost a couple of other receivers for the year, and this is a team that's defense has been gutted and is just – they're not in a place right now where they're ready to compete at an elite level. The other 3 teams, though, are such a toss-up.
They are.
But I agree with you. I think the Redskins, and I think the biggest addition to that team isn't a free agent or any major changes. It's just Brian Orakpo coming back healthy. That man is a beast. He is the best, if not the best, one of the best outside linebackers in football today in his prime. And coming back 100% healthy, he is just going to be a beast for that team. And not to mention that RG3 is going to be getting Fred Davis back at the tight end.
Absolutely.
And we know in modern football, especially this past 10 years, the proliferation of tight ends in the NFL. And you get a talent like Fred Davis back. What's that going to do for Robert Griffin III in his second year?
It's, frankly, I love Fred Davis. Last year, I was doing some number crunching, and before he got hurt, he was on a route to have over 1,000 yards receiving. Every game was solid. He didn't have a 20-yard game and then a 120-yard game. Every single game, 70, 90, 100 yards, every single time. If he does that this year, that's going to take a lot of pressure off of RG3. It's going to give him a weapon. He could drop. He could dump pass to this guy. He could do anything with this guy. And I love tight ends. I'm a huge fan of tight ends. And Fred Davis is exactly what the Redskins needed to relieve some of the pressure off of RG3. Make sure he stays healthy for the whole season. And yeah, I agree. Brian Orakpo is going to be huge for their defense, which is keep the defense working well, keep your quarterback off the ground. Yeah, they're going to be good.
The other thing with the Redskins that I like is of this division, they're the only team that has a sustainable run game and a proven track record to run it with. Everybody knows Shanahan's track record with running backs. He picks them in the 6th round, and he gets them over 1,000 yards almost every single year. Last year's the perfect example. Alfred Morris, rookie in the 6th round, rushes for over 1,300 yards, second in the league in rushing. And even if he goes down, they've got guys like Roy Helu, and they drafted another one in the late rounds like they always do. And you can always count on a Shanahan-coached team to get those yards.
Absolutely.
Whereas you've got a team like the Cowboys, DeMarco Murray, solid back, but he's been playing hurt the past couple of years. You've got a team like the Eagles, where you've got LaShawn McCoy, who has difficulty staying healthy, and that team has never been a running team. They've always been a passing team under Andy Reid. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the Giants, who just lost Ahmad Bradshaw, and we're talking about the Giants possibly making a wild card and how you can't count them out. I see the Giants in the same view that I see the Patriots, and the fact that they don't like to pay their players and they start letting too many people go. I understand trying to find value, trying to keep your core intact and building around your core, but at some point you got to start paying your players. They lost Osi Umenyiora. They lost Ahmad Bradshaw. They've got only 2 legitimate receivers in Victor Cruz and Hakeem Nicks. Nicks never stays healthy. I think the Giants are going to have a very down year, and I think they'll be hovering somewhere around 500 come the end of the season. All right, we've just gone through all the divisions, and we agree on quite a few of them. To recap, who are your wild cards? The 2 in the NFC, 2 in the AFC.
NFC, I got Bears and San Fran. AFC, I got Colts and Dolphins.
All right, for my NFC, I have got the Bears as well, but I'm going with the Saints. I think as I said before, I think the Seahawks are going to have some struggles. I think the loss of Percy Harvin's going to affect them more, and I think Marshawn Lynch can only have that bull, straight-ahead running style work for him so long in this modern-day age. So I think that's going to help hurt them for starters. And then I think the Bears, this is their window. It's now or never. They've got a very old defense that's probably got only 1 or 2 seasons left in it, and if Cutler can't put it together now with a Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey and some other tools around him, I don't think he ever will. So we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt of that. Now, you also said the Colts and Dolphins. Mm-hmm. Dolphins, very interesting team. And you mentioned earlier, I am a fan of them, but I can't do it. I think they're still a year away. I think Tannehill's still a year away, even though I think he's going to have a very, very good year. I think he's one of those fantasy sleepers that you guys can get, especially if you're in keeper leagues. Pick up Tannehill because he's got 2 receivers to work with, a speed back, and for a keeper league, if you can get him in the 12th, 13th round, that's a guy you're going to want around in the next couple of years. But in addition to the Colts, my other team is going to be the Chiefs. I like Andy Reid being added to that team. I think it'll take the pressure off Jamal Charles, and I think with Andy Reid's type of West Coast offense, it's perfectly suited to Alex Smith. And with a weapon like Dwayne Bowe, he'll finally get utilized. And there's another fantasy tip. Dwayne Bowe, huge year. Pass-heavy offense, Andy Reid, competent quarterback, one not named Matt Castle. And I don't think they'll compete with the Broncos, but I think they'll finally get that playoff berth. And Kansas City deserves it. That's a suffering franchise and a great fan base.
Big time. I would agree with you on that one for sure.
And who's our Super Bowl picks?
Super Bowl picks, I'm going to go with Denver again. Like I said, last year, Peyton Manning made one bad call, turned into an interception. That was the deciding factor for the Super Bowl last year. So I'm gonna say they're going to get it this year. And then I'm going to go with the Redskins for the NFC this year. Again, as we were touching on, Fred Davis coming back, Arakpo coming back. It's hard to argue with those 2 guys on top of RG3, carrying the team last year the way he did. I think it's something they can repeat, and when you add those 2 guys into the mix, it's that Super Bowl contention right there.
You got a winner picked out of the 2?
No way. I like having Super Bowls where I can't figure out who's going to win because that just makes it all the more fun.
Well, I'm going a little different on this one. I'm going with the Texans. I think the emergence of J.J. Watt is just unbeatable force. And we saw how dominant he was last year, leading the league in batted balls down, and just how from the end position in a 3-4 defense, how he could just take over is something spectacular to behold. Absolutely. And you've got that 2-headed running attack with Arian Foster and Ben Tate, and I like some of the moves they've made this offseason. So I'm going with the Texans to get over that hump and make it to the Super Bowl. And I'm going with the Falcons. They're a well-seasoned team. They finally broke through that glass season last year and won that playoff game. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about earlier, so many weapons. You've got 2 Pro Bowl caliber receivers in a Julio Jones and a Roddy White. You've got the greatest tight end of all time, Tony Gonzalez, who, despite his age, has not dropped off a bit.
Not one bit.
Second all-time in receptions from the tight end position.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
And I'm going to play it because I have to.
He looks like Jerry Rice out there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
A big Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice.
And then Steven Jackson is a big upgrade over Michael Turner. Michael Turner obviously had a huge drop-off last year.
Mm-hmm.
Was averaging only about 3 yards a carry, whereas Steven Jackson, behind that mess of an offensive line in St. Louis, still got over 1,000 yards. So
yeah.
I'm going to go with the Falcons. And like you, for me, it's a coin flip. NFC won. So I'm going over the Falcons over the Texans in the Super Bowl. So, Atlanta, start filling your seats because you guys have been kind of a mediocre fan base. So go out and support your team. You're probably going to go 13-3 and make it to the Super Bowl. So do what you got to do. Any surprises do you think this year? Do you think there's going to be any superstar players that just emerge, first-time Pro Bowlers, teams that break out of the cellar and show something to you? Anybody you think is going to really break loose?
Off the top of my head, well, here I'm going tight ends again, but I think if Fred Davis stays healthy, I think he's definitely a Pro Bowl shot. It's going to be tough with Tony Gonzalez because he's so freaking good, but it's Fred Davis. How many people really know Fred Davis? He was cut short last year, and again, he hasn't been in the Pro Bowl. He hasn't got that going for him just yet. So I think he's gonna break out this year, big time.
Here's a name to remember, and it's on the St. Louis Rams. His name is Daryl Richardson. Last year in backup duty for the now departed Steven Jackson, he still rushed for over 800 yards. He is fast, he is young, and he is strong. This guy is going to be a Pro Bowler this year. You can just bank on it. He is awesome. And I know this because I have a very deep fantasy league, and I had him starting over other incumbents, guys like Chris Johnson, who are very disappointing. And I have this backup running back going. Watch out for him, especially in that division where it is going to be so competitive. I think he's going to be one of the biggest surprises this year. Another surprise I think you're going to look for an emergence of defenses this year. Mm-hmm. This draft was very heavy on offensive line and defensive line, and especially defensive line. You saw a team like the Dolphins move up to number 3 to draft Deion Jordan out of Oregon, super athletic. You got a team like the Browns drafting Barkevious, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Barkevious Mingo out of LSU. And then you've got a lot of guys coming back healthy. We talk about the Redskins possibly going over the top with the emergence of Brian Orakpo. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of this spread offense is going to be found out this year, and I think defense is going to take a step up from previous years.
I hope so.
So that's my prediction for this year. Well, for further NFL coverage, keep listening to the CSBS. I broadcast every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Also, follow me on Tumblr. Follow me on Twitter at the CSBS. And during the week, if you have any questions or comments and want me to address on the show, email me at cmstanton2@gmail.com. Have a good day and a great weekend.